and welcome to the Analyst dated 15th October 2023 by Vajiram and Ravi, wherein we'll be looking into important current affairs article from both the Hindu as well as Indian Express. And the handout of this very discussion is available in the description below. Let's have a look over the table of content. So firstly, we are going to look into India-Sri Lanka relations. We'll try to understand that why Sri Lanka is so significant for India. What are the areas of cooperation between the two nations and what are the challenges which are there between the two nations. Then we'll be looking into traditional medicines. We'll try to understand its importance, the different systems of traditional medicines in India, and what are the challenges when it comes to the traditional medicines in India. Then we'll be looking into new emerging challenges with regard to terrorism. What are the new emerging challenges and what all steps the government of India has taken and what steps more government of India needs to take in order to address these new emerging challenges with regard to terrorism in India. Then we'll be looking into green credit. We'll try to understand what is it all about. And lastly, we'll be looking into hepatitis C. Let's begin our discussion. Let's look into our first article which pertains to India-Sri Lanka relations. And this topic relates to this very aspect of your GS paper 2 syllabus. We also have a previous year question in this regard. So after listening to this very discussion, please try and attempt this question. Now let's first understand the context. So the context is Honorable Prime Minister of India has launched the passenger ferry service, that is Cheriyapani, between Nagapattinam, which is on the eastern coast of Tamil Nadu, and Kanke Santhurai, which is the northern province of Sri Lanka, after a gap of nearly 4 decades. Now, although this is going to strengthen India-Sri Lanka relation, but it has increased the transportation worries when it comes to the people who are living in Lakshadweep. Because earlier they had 3 high-speed crafts like Cheriyapani. But now as Cheriyapani would be used to, send the passengers from India to Sri Lanka, so now the people who are living in Lakshadweep would be having only 2 high-speed craft for inter-island transport. Okay, let's look into India-Sri Lanka relation. Now, the first thing that we need to understand is why Sri Lanka is so significant to India. The first reason being its strategic location. It is strategically located between Persian Gulf and Strait of Malacca, which is one of the busiest shipping lanes when it comes to the Indian Ocean region. Second reason being the military significance. Now, when it comes to the naval fleets of India, we have to switch the naval fleets from Arabian Sea to Bay of Bengal and vice versa. And in order to do so, you have to turn around the Sri Lankan region. On account of this, from military point of view also, Sri Lanka is very important to India. Well, let's look into the economic ties. So, when we look at the bilateral mercantile trade between India and Sri Lanka in 2020, it was around 3.6 billion. So, you can understand that when it comes to India, Sri Lanka is very important. Then, geopolitical importance is also there. Why? Because as we know, when it comes to the Indian Ocean region, Chinese presence is increasing time and again. So, Sri Lanka is very important to India when it comes to the Indian Ocean strategy of India. That is to ensure free, open, inclusive Indo-Pacific region. Okay? To ensure free, open and inclusive navigation in the Indian Ocean region. Herein comes the role of Sri Lanka. So, India needs the cooperation from Sri Lanka in order to make sure, in order to realize the idea of free, open and inclusive Indo-Pacific, and it is also in alignment with Indian Ocean strategy. Because the Sri Lanka is very important when it comes to the regional security of Indian Ocean region. Then, another reason being increasing Chinese presence when it comes to the Sri Lankan region. China is developing ports in Sri Lanka and India has a concern with regard to this because India feels that in future China might be using these ports which it is building in Sri Lanka for military purposes. So in this background also, we need the cooperation of Sri Lanka. We want Sri Lanka to take our concerns into consideration when it comes to increased Chinese presence in the Sri Lankan state. Okay. Now, let's look into different areas of cooperation between the two states. When it we talk about the historical relations between the two nations. So they share cultural historical ties which date back to over 2500 years. So Buddhism was spread to Sri Lanka by Ashoka's son Mahinda in 3rd century BC. And when India and Sri Lanka got independence, India got independence in 1947, Sri Lanka got independence in 1948. India played a very crucial role in developing democratic institutions in Sri Lanka. So both the nations share good historical relations as well. Let's look into the economic relations between the two. Now we have India-Sri Lanka Free Trade Agreement, which was there in 2000, and this has facilitated increased bilateral trade between the two nations. When it comes to Sri Lanka is the largest trading partner among SAARC when it comes to India. And India is also one of the largest trading partner when it comes to Sri Lanka. India have provided around $1.7 billion FDI between 2005 to 2019 to the Sri Lankan state. So we can very well gauge by this thing that the two nations also have good economic relations as well. Let's look into the cultural relation between the two. Buddhism is one link that we have discussed. So the two nations signed the Cultural Cooperation Agreement 1997, which forms the basis of periodic cultural exchange between the two states. And we also have India Cultural Center, which is at Colombo, which plays a very prominent role in increasing awareness with regard to Indian culture in Sri Lanka. So it provides or offers classes with regard to Indian music, dance, Hindi, and it also plays a very prominent role in organizing international yoga event annually. Then let's look into the development cooperation. So India has provided developmental assistance to Sri Lanka amounting to around 3 billion. And India is also helping Sri Lanka in developing high impact community development projects. In the domain of education, we are developing ambulance services in Sri Lanka. Then we are also developing more than 60,000 houses under the Indian housing projects. Then when we talk about the defense cooperation, the two states carry out joint military exercises like Mitra Shakti, and they also carried out joint naval exercises like Slinix. When you talk about infrastructure development, so India is helping Sri Lanka in developing these two ports. And the two nations also are part of these multilateral organizations like SAARC, BIMSTEC, Indian Ocean Rim Association, etc. So these are the areas of cooperation between the India and Sri Lanka state. Let's look into the issues which are the pertinent issues between the two nations. First is increased Chinese presence in Sri Lanka. Now, when it comes to China, it is the largest bilateral creditor to Sri Lanka. And Sri Lanka, time and again take credit help from China in order to address its foreign debt burden. Then when you look at the exports from China to Sri Lanka, it has surpassed what India's exports are to Sri Lanka in 2020. And China has also helped Sri Lanka in developing Colombo port and Hambantota ports. Now, why increased Chinese presence is one of the concern for India? Because when it comes to Hambantota port, as Sri Lanka could not service its debt, it has to give this port for 99 years on lease to China. Now, this aggravates India's concern because India is concerned that these ports which the China is developing in Sri Lanka could be used for military purposes in the near future. Then, time and again, there are fishermen issues between the two nations. Why? Time and again, Indian fishermen get arrested by the Sri Lankan forces because they are accused of carrying out illegal fishing near the Park Strait. And the Sri Lankan government has also raised concern with regard to this aspect that when it comes to the Indian fishermen, they are using or they are carrying out mechanized trawlers or trawling fishing practices. Now, what is the harmful environmental impact of mechanized trawling? So when you use mechanized trawling, what the fishermen actually do, they carry even juvenile fishes. Now when you carry even very juvenile fishes, it becomes difficult for the marine ecology to you know to regenerate itself. So this has a very negative impact on marine ecology, and it also significantly affects the the catch fishing catch when it comes to the Sri Lankan fishermen. So Sri Lanka has time and again raised this concern with the Indian government that please stop your fishermen from doing mechanized trawling, because it is having a negative impact first on the marine ecology, and it is also impacting the fish stocks which are available to the Sri Lankan fishermen. So time and again the Indian fishermen get arrested by the Sri Lankan forces because they enter into the territorial waters of Sri Lanka. What are territorial waters? So territorial water is basically 12 nautical miles from the baseline. Baseline is basically the area of low water. From that till 12 nautical mile, it is the territorial water of a particular state. Okay. So this is another pertinent issue between India and Sri Lanka. Then there is an issue with regard to Kachathifu Island. Now, why there is an issue? Already, India has recognized the sovereignty of Sri Lanka over this island through a pact in 1974. But this issue is still pertinent. Why? Because when it comes to the Tamil Nadu government, it states that this island falls under the Indian territory and the Tamil fishermen have the right to carry out fishing in this region. So this is another pertinent issue. Then there is issue with regard to implementation of 13th Amendment to the Sri Lankan Constitution, which was made after Indo-Sri Lankan Accord in 1987, which was signed by the then Prime Minister of India, that is Rajiv Gandhi, and the President of Sri Lanka, that is Jayawardene. What is this 13th Amendment to the Sri Lankan Constitution all about? So through this 13th Amendment, the Sri Lankan government basically promised that they would be giving requisite autonomy to the 9 provincial councils. So the elected provincial councils in these 9 provinces would be having a requisite autonomy with regard to subjects like agriculture, education, health, road, transportation, etc. Whereas land and police powers would be remaining with the central government. But even today, this 13th Amendment to the Sri Lankan Constitution has not been effectively implemented by the Sri Lankan government. And this time and again impacts the autonomy of the Tamils who are living in Sri Lanka. Then, time and again, there is political instability, there is change in the regime when it comes to Sri Lanka. And when there is change in the regime, what happens? It becomes difficult for the two states to come together and, effectively implement the MOUs that they have signed in a coordinated manner. So, viable relationship is not able to develop, okay, on account of increased political instability in Sri Lanka. Now, in this regard, the last thing that we need to look into is what needs to be done in order to address this outstanding issues which are there between India and Sri Lanka. In order to, address this issue of increased Chinese presence, we can't time and again tell Sri Lanka that you please do not, cooperate with China. If we want to increase our presence in Sri Lanka, we also need to, come up with developmental projects in Sri Lanka, which are more people-centric. And in this regard, we can also take help from like-minded countries like Japan in order to, tackle or in order to effectively address the increased Chinese presence in Sri Lanka. Then, when you talk about fishermen problem, this could be addressed if the Indian authorities prevent the Indian fishermen from using trawlers, mechanized trawlers. And rather, we should incentivize the fishermen to do deep fishing, which implies fishing in the deep waters of seas and oceans. This is eco-friendly practice. And we can also, equip the boats of Indian fishermen with GPS, so that they could effectively know that, when they are crossing the maritime boundary line between India and Sri Lanka. Coming to the 13th Amendment to Sri Lankan Constitution, in this regard, the Sri Lankan government should take the concerns of India into consideration, and it should ensure effective implementation of 13th Amendment to the Sri Lankan Constitution. Likewise, both the countries should take into consideration their mutual concerns that they have. And in order to resolve those mutual concerns, they could make use of the multilateral forums of which they are part of, like BIMSTEC, like Indian Ocean Rim Association, like SAARC, etc. That is all that we have to make note of from this very topic. Let's move to the next one. Now, the next topic pertains to the aspect of traditional medicines. And this topic pertains to this very aspect of your GS Paper 2 syllabus. Let's try and understand the context. So the context is, the Union government has sought for Ayurveda and related systems to be included in 11th revision of WHO's International Classification of Diseases. India is demanding that module 2nd should be related to Ayurveda and Indian traditional medicines. Why Indian government is doing this? Because as a result of repeated consultations, what we have witnessed is module 1st of this International Classification of Disease is now related to Chinese traditional medicine system. The another aspect that we need to understand is, what is this International Classification of Diseases? So it provides basically a common language which enables the health professionals to share standardized information across the globe. Okay? And why we are, sorting to introduce or to incorporate Ayurveda and Indian traditional medicines when it comes to WHO International Classification of Diseases? First is to put the Indian traditional medicines on the world map. Then is to enable this traditional medicine system of India to come up with a standardized, common standardized information system. Okay? And we are also making a request in this regard in order to, strengthen our response with regard to the demands which are being raised, that this traditional medicine system should be integrated with modern medicine systems. And demands are also being raised that effective regulations of traditional medicine system should be done. So this inclusion in International Classification of Diseases would help in effective regulation of Indian traditional, medicine system, and it would also enable us to effectively integrate the traditional medicine system with the modern health care system, okay, and healthcare information. Now, let's look into what do you mean by traditional medicines. So, according to World Health Organization, traditional medicine basically refers to the education, the skill set, the practices which have developed over a period of time in a particular culture to maintain health, to diagnose, to prevent and to treat physical as well as mental illness. Okay? Now, let's look into the different systems of Indian traditional medicines that are there. First is Ayurveda. Now, Ayurveda founds its oldest reference in the Atharva Veda. Now, in Ayurveda, what we do, we combine the changes in diet and lifestyle changes along with drug therapy that is going on. So, it includes massage, panchkarma, etc. So, when it comes to yoga, the credit of streamlining yoga goes to Patanjali, who wrote Yoga Sutra. Yoga consists of physical postures, meditation, etc. When it comes to naturopathy, it believes that body has all the healing power. So when it comes to naturopathy, it uses the body's own immune system to fight with the diseases. In this, we make use of rest, fasting and natural diets in order to enable the body to recover from a particular disease. Coming to Unani, this system of traditional medicine originated in Greece and it was introduced in India during the time of Delhi Sultanate. It basically, depends on treating phalgam, blood, yellow and black bile. Then Siddha. Siddha is prominent in Tamil Nadu and Kerala, and it basically focuses on maintaining a balance between the 5 elements, that is earth, water, fire, air and ether in the body in order to enable the body to recover from a particular disease. Coming to Sova Rigpa, this is in practice in the Himalayan regions like in Sikkim, Arunachal Pradesh, Darjeeling, etc. And it is driven from Ayurveda as well as Tibetan medicine practices. Okay. Coming to homeopathy. Now when it comes to homeopathy, it is highly effective in treating the diseases. Why? Because in this, the treatment is based on the symptoms which the body is showing. Okay. So it has no side effects and it is quite effective in treating the disease. Now, the next aspect that we need to understand is, what is the importance of traditional medicine? Why government is focusing upon traditional medicines? First reason being, its demand has increased over a period of time. People have started to, recognize the importance of traditional medicine systems on account of rise in non-communicable diseases, lifestyle disorders, multi-drug resistant disorders. For example, on account of continuous use of laptops and you are continuously on the screen, you develop backache issues. So in this regard, the yoga postures come to a great rescue in this regard. So on account of increased demand and importance that the Indian society has started to recognize when it comes to traditional medicine systems, government is also focusing on traditional medicine systems. Then it does not have any side effect. When it comes to allopathic medicines, it would be having some sort of side effects. But when it comes to traditional medicine, you must have heard your grandparents saying that it might cure your disease, but it would not be having any side effect. For example, for treating cough, you take tulsi ka kadha. Okay? So it merely have any side effects. Then it is cost effective. Why? Because traditional medicine system has developed over a period of time. Okay, we have continuously practiced these knowledge, skill set and practices, and it is cost effective. Why? Because we don't need to carry out research and development in this regard, and it is cost effective. Why? Because it is based on plant extract which are readily available in a particular geographical area. When it comes to allopathic medicine, you need to, develop chemicals in order to come up with that allopathic medicine. But that is not the case with traditional medicine system. And as we were discussing, it is cost effective. Why? Because you don't need to invest in R&D. Already these practices have been prevalent throughout the, Indian culture. For example, Shushru Samhita contained description of 650 drugs and it also discusses various aspects of surgery. So these are well tested educational set and practices. You don't need to carry out further R&D in this regard. Then it would enable us to, create brand India. Why? Because if you see right now the market of medicinal plants, it is around 4.2 billion in 2019 and it is anticipated that it would be growing to around 14 billion by 2030. And the experts have also pointed out that if we effectively promote the traditional medicine systems of India, it can play a very major role in promoting medical tourism in India as well. Then it also have employment potential. Currently, 40,000 of MSMEs are already engaged in the Ayush industry. So on account of this, the government is also focusing on the traditional medicines. But what are the challenges with regard to traditional medicines that we are time and again witnessing? First is their tussle with allopathic care. When it comes to the allopathic doctors, they question the credibility of the traditional medicine system. Recently, Indian Medical Association objected a notification of the government which allowed the postgraduate Ayurvedic doctors to perform 58 basic surgeries. Why the allopathic doctors are, time and again questioning the credibility of traditional medicine systems, although they have been prevalent, they have been used since, a long period of time. It is because when it comes to the allopathic care, stringent scientific norms are laid down when it comes to allopathic medicines. But we don't have scientific, norms and, test to basically test the effectiveness of Ayurvedic medicines. Then, time and again it has been pointed out by the experts that collaborate the traditional medicine systems with the allopathic or the modern healthcare. But in this regard, when it comes to the traditional medicine system, they point out that they would be losing their identity if you club them with the modern healthcare system. At the other end, the allopathic doctors point out that if you club the traditional system of medicine with the modern one, what we are going to witness is dilution in standards of medical care. Because as I told you, when it comes to allopathic care, there are set standards. The diseases are classified and there is a set procedure to treat that particular disease. But when it comes to the traditional system of medicine, there is no set criteria. We don't even have scientific norms and regulations in order to test the effectiveness of a Ayush industry drug. So this is one of the major issues with regard to traditional medicine systems in India. Then there is issue with the safety and quality control because there is lack of standardization. Okay, so there are different medicinal formulations if you look at various geographical regions. Okay, when it comes to the traditional medicine system. So there is lack of standardization, and on account of this, it becomes difficult to come up with a scientific standard protocol or norms in order to check the effectiveness of the drugs which are being made by the traditional medicine system in India. Then there is poor quality of Ayush practitioners. There are multiple reasons of this. First is there are poor quality courses when it comes to the Ayush sector, and experts have pointed out that if we impose the stringent norms which are there in place with regard to MBBS medical colleges on Ayush institutions, then the government would have to shut down these Ayush institutions. This is one of the major challenges when it comes to traditional medicine systems in India. Another reason why you have poor quality of practitioners when it comes to Ayush industry is there are poor economic opportunities for the Ayush practitioners. As we witness right now, previously a government notification which allowed postgraduate of Ayurvedic doctors to perform 58 surgeries was objected by the Indian Medical Association. So they have poor employment opportunities. That is why also the Ayush institutions are not able to attract the best talent across the country. Then on account of mindless customization of Ayush related herbal supplements stating that they are natural in origin. Okay, so this again, triggers fears among the Indian society that whether we should, trust on the Ayush industry drugs or not, or the herbal nutritional supplements which are provided. Because time and again, we also have this, image in our mind that when it comes to the herbal supplements which are made by the Ayush industry, are they actually natural in origin? Are they actually effective? So on account of this mindless customization, what is happening? People are again relying on allopathic healthcare or the modern healthcare rather than relying on the traditional medicine system. Then when it comes to traditional medicine system, it is quite ineffective when it comes to treating the emergency cases. Why is it so? Because the Ayush medicines are slow to act and heal. So it becomes very difficult to predict that how the body would be responding over a period of time. Then there is lack of homogeneity because As we discussed, there are different systems of traditional medicines. Some are practiced in the Himalayan region like Sowa Rigpa, some are practiced in, let's say, Tamil Nadu and Kerala. And in different system of traditional medicines, different variety of medicinal plants are being used. So on account of this, there is lack of homogeneity when it comes to traditional medicine system. But when you look at the modern healthcare system or the allopathic care, these diseases are classified and they have a prior set criteria, okay, or a standardized protocol that how this particular disease needs to be treated when it comes to allopathic care. But that is something which is lacking when it comes to traditional medicine systems in India. Now, let's look into the steps that the government of India has taken with regard to traditional medicine system in India. So it has set up a separate ministry, that is Ministry of Ayush in 2014. It has come up with National Ayush Mission, which would basically be coming up with regulatory norms when it comes to Ayurveda, Siddha, Unani and homeopathy drugs. It would make sure that the requisite raw materials are available when it comes to these drugs. And it would also be looking into the capacity building or strengthening of the educational institutions which are there in the Ayush domain. Then Ayush Aadhaar was introduced by Food Safety and Standard Authority of India. So this Ayush Aadhaar would be regulating the herbal nutritional supplements which are produced in this particular industry. Then the government has also set up Ayush Export Promotion Councils in order to promote the export of Ayush products. And it has also set up Ayush Parks, which would be basically doing the requisite R&D in the Ayush industry, and it would be changing the manufacturing practices when it comes to the Ayush related drugs. Then we have WHO Global Center for Traditional Medicine in Jamnagar, Gujarat, which again would be doing evidence-based research, R&D in the Ayush sector, and it would be coming up with norms, regulations to regulate this Ayush sector. It would go a long way in realizing the idea of universal health coverage. Lastly, what more needs to be done in order to strengthen this traditional medicine system in India? So we need to, put in place the stringent norms and rules which are there in place for allopathic care for traditional medicine system as well, because we can't compromise with the health of our citizens. Then we need to do capacity building of Ayush practitioners in order to strengthen the preventive healthcare in India. And we also need to integrate the modern as well as traditional medicine system. This we can do by carrying out R&D in traditional medicine system, by ensuring that requisite autonomy is provided to the traditional medicine system, along with ensuring cross-learning and collaborations between the two. And in this regard, we need to learn from Chinese model, that how they have integrated their traditional medicine system with the modern one by carrying out requisite R&D, collaboration and cross-learning between the traditional medicine systems and the modern healthcare system, that is allopathic care. So when it comes to traditional medicine system, we need to learn from China that how they have done great advancements when it comes to their traditional medicine system. That is all that we have to make note of from this very topic. Let's move to the next one. Now this next topic relates to new emerging challenges with regard to terrorism. This topic pertains to this aspect of your GS paper 3 paper, and we also have a previous year question in this regard, so try and attempt this very question. What is the context? So the context is Punjab police in a joint operation with central agencies busted Lashkar-e-Taiba terror module. Now in this regard, we need to understand that what are the new emerging challenges which India is witnessing when it comes to terrorism. Because till now India has only focused upon legal and institutional measures. And we are finding that these legal and institutional measures are not sufficient when it comes to dealing with this new emerging challenges. Let's look into the new emerging challenges which India is witnessing. First is lone wolf attack. Now, what do I mean by lone wolf attack? So these are basically freelancers or radicalize individuals which have no formal linkage with well-established terrorist organization, but they are, carrying out random terrorist attack because they are radicalized. For example, beheading incident at Udaipur in June 2022. Now, this is a new challenge, and the security agencies are finding very difficult to deal with lone wolf attack, because as we discussed, these lone wolf attackers are not having any formal linkage with well-established terrorist organizations. So it becomes very difficult for the security agencies to, anticipate that whether, these lone wolf attacks would be happening or, where they would be happening. Then another challenge is expanding web of terrorism. Now the terrorist organizations are using the onion router. They are basically using darknet, which are basically encrypted networks on the internet, which are not easily accessible to you if you use the normal search engines like Google, Yahoo, Bing, etc. And you can, access this darknet only through the onion router. And what we are witnessing is the terrorist organizations are also using new and emerging technologies like deepfakes. So what are deepfakes? Wherein you use deep learning technologies to manipulate the videos, audio and images. For example, there is an image of yours and you can use the image of a celebrity to replace that. But although that image is fake, but it would appear to you that it is real image. So the terrorist organizations are using these deep fake technologies to manipulate the audios, to manipulate the videos in order to spread fake news and in order to spread their propagandas. Then when it comes to terror financing, the security agencies are witnessing a new challenge, because now the terrorist organizations are resorting to cryptocurrency, which is still not regulated in India. What are cryptocurrencies? So these are basically the digital currencies which use blockchain technology, and they are decentralized. So they are not regulated by the central bank of a particular country, rather they are decentralized. So in order to obtain cryptocurrency, you need to do mining. So by making use of your computer, you need to solve complex mathematical equations in order to get a cryptocurrency. Examples of cryptocurrency being Bitcoin. Now, as these cryptocurrencies are not regulated by the Central Bank of India, that is why the terrorist organization are time and again resorting to cryptocurrency in order to finance the terror activities. Then another emerging challenges that we are witnessing is bioterrorism, wherein we are making use of biological agents in order to spread terrorism. For example, the Postal Department back in 2001 received 17 suspicious letters that were believed to be infected with anthrax spores, the bacteria that produce toxins which can cause skin, lungs and bowel diseases. And as in this 21st century, the biotechnology has made great advancements, this threat is emerging over a period of time. What is biotechnology? So biotechnology is wherein we use the technology to make the requisite changes in the life processes. For example, genetically modified crops, gene editing technology, through which we can address genetically transferred diseases or genetic disorders as well. Now, as biotechnology is evolving, still a evolving domain, so this bioterrorism is emerging as a new challenge for the security agencies of India. Lastly, cyber terrorism is also on a rise. So in the last 2 years, India has witnessed 7 major attacks on the India's critical infrastructure. Critical infrastructure, that is power, telecom, aviation, oil and energy, etc. So as the technology is evolving, the forms of terrorism are also evolving over a period of time. Now, Let's look into the current strategy of Government of India. As I told you, till now government is focusing on legal and institutional measures. What are those legal and institutional measures? So it has created National Investigation Agency in the backdrop of 26/11 terrorist attack in 2008. Then we are carrying out surgical strikes in 2016, which has reduced infiltration by 45% between 2011 and 13 to 2014 and 17, the state of Jammu and Kashmir. Then we have Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, which enables the government to designate a particular organization as terrorist organization, and in 2019 an amendment was made in this particular act which enables the Home Ministry to designate an individual also as a terrorist. Then we have terror funding and fake currency cells, which are addressing the issues which we are witnessing with regard to terror financing, and it is also addressing the menace of fake currencies. We have National Intelligence Grid, which was created again in 2008, and this is basically an intelligence sharing network. So it promotes intelligence sharing between different ministries and departments. Then we are also building border infrastructure. So last 3 years, 200 kilometers of border areas have been fenced, 350 kilometers of border roads are built. So it goes a long way in addressing the infiltration that we are witnessing in our bordering states. Now, the last thing that we need to understand with regard to this article is what more needs to be done, since we are witnessing new and emerging challenges. As we discussed right now, with the evolution in technology, the forms of terrorism are also undergoing a change. So we are witnessing new emerging challenges with regard to terrorism. In this regard, we need to focus on de-radicalization. This would go a long way in addressing the new emerging challenge of lone wolf attacks. So, when it comes to de-radicalization, we first need to define what do you mean by radicalization. Because until and unless you don't define what is radicalization, you would not be able to come up with a coherent strategy when it comes to de-radicalization. So, when it comes to de-radicalization, what you need to focus upon? You need to focus upon rehabilitation, re-education and reintegration of such youth. Okay? Once they have been de-radicalized. So, in this regard, the Indian Army's winning heart and mind strategy is a step in the right direction. Then, we need to make sure that there is no money for terror. For this, we need to make our security agencies well equipped so that they can monitor the blockchain transactions through which cryptocurrencies are transacted. Then, you need to explore the linkages between terrorism and the criminal activities like narco-terror, cyber radicalization. So we use, the websites for carrying out radicalization, for, promoting the propaganda of a particular terrorist organization, organized crime syndicates and money laundering. Because all these activities, some way or the other, promote the terrorism in India. They play a major role, like the drug trafficking, money laundering. These monies are basically used to fund terrorist activities. So you need to develop the linkages, you need to explore these linkages in order to effectively tackle the menace of terrorism in India. Then we need to also create a body to effectively tackle the emerging challenge of bioterrorism. So we can create a body under National Disaster Management Authority. In this, you can get experts from the academic institutions, from private sectors, from security agencies, so that we can come up with a coherent strategy that how we can effectively tackle with bioterrorism, which would be basically monitoring the evolving developments when it comes to the domain of biotechnology. And lastly, we need to come up with cyber defense mechanism in order to tackle the cyber terrorism which we are witnessing right now. So, when it comes to cyber defense mechanism, we need to come up with a coherent strategy for our cyber defense. We need to set up a centralized unit which would be looking into this aspect of cyber defense. We need to invest in cyber defense technology, and we need to carry out the requisite R&D when it comes to cyber defense technology. That is all that we have to make note of from this very topic. Let's move to the next one. Now, the next topic pertains to green credit, and this topic relates to this very aspect of your prelim syllabus. The context being, central government has unveiled tradable green credit. Now, the first thing that we need to understand with regard to this topic is, what is green credit? So, it is basically a unit of an incentive which would be given for specified activities, not for all activities, it would be for specified activities. Pay attention to this. That deliver a positive impact on the environment. So, green credit is different from carbon credit. Carbon credit basically focuses on those activities which reduce the emission of CO2 or other greenhouse gases. But when it comes to green credit, it focuses on other environmental aspects as well. For example, it would be focusing on mangrove reconstruction, mangroves restoration. It would be focusing on waste management, etc. But when it comes to carbon credit, it would be merely focusing on the activities which are going to reduce the CO2 emissions. Then, another aspect that we need to understand is who can earn and trade this. So, an individual or any entity can earn and trade this on a platform which has been developed by Indian Council of Forestry Research and Education. Then, this green credit is basically a follow-up action of Lifestyle for Environment movement, which was announced by Honorable Prime Minister of India in 2021. What is this Lifestyle for Environment movement? So, it basically talks about adopting environment conscious living style or environmental conscious lifestyle. So, it basically makes a request to us that we should move from use and dispose economy to a circular one, wherein we promote reuse, reduce, recycling, etc. We make sure that a particular component remain in cycle rather than disposing that off. Then, what all activities are being covered under this green credit? As I told you, this green credit is a unit of an incentive which is there for specified activities only. So, the activities are tree plantation, water management, sustainable agriculture, waste management, air pollution reduction and mangrove conservation and restoration. Initially, it would be focusing on tree plantation and water management. Then, how you can get a green credit? So, in order to get a green credit, you need to register the activity that you have undertaken which is having a positive impact on the environment with regard to these aspects. Okay, on this very dedicated website which has been developed by again Indian Council for Forestry Research and Education. And this whatever activity that you have undertaken, that would be verified by a designated agency. So, based on the report of this designated agency, the administration would be providing you with a green credit which you can trade. But when it comes to small projects, they would be evaluated through self-evaluation. Now, when it comes to the evaluation aspect under this green credit, the guidelines have been developed that how we are going to evaluate that whether a particular activity is enough to provide whatever activity a particular individual or entity has undertaken, that amount of activity is sufficient to give that individual or entity a green credit or not. That guideline has been framed and now it has been notified for stakeholder consultation. Then, when it comes to the governance of green credit, it would be done through an interministerial steering committee and Indian Council of Forestry Research and Education. When it comes to the calculation, we will be looking into this aspect, that equivalence of resource requirement, parity of scale, scope, size, etc. to achieve the desired environmental outcome. As I told you, with regard to calculation, the guidelines have been framed, but now it has been notified for stakeholder consultation. Then, it is independent of carbon credit trading scheme which is under Energy Conservation Act 2001. Now, when it comes to carbon credit, as I told you, It basically deals with, reducing CO2 emissions. So 1 carbon credit basically refers to 1 ton of CO2. So under this carbon trading scheme, if let's say a company A has emitted less amount of CO2 as it was allowed to emit, so it can get a carbon credit and it can trade this carbon credit to company B, which has exceeded the CO2 emission which it was allowed to make. Okay, so this is this carbon credit trading scheme all about. That is all that we have to make note of from this very topic. Let's move to the last topic. The last topic pertains to hepatitis C, and this topic pertains to this very aspect of our prelim syllabus. We also have a previous year question in this regard. So after listening to this very discussion, please try and attempt this very question. What is the context? So the context is, according to WHO, Egypt has become the first country to achieve gold tier status on the path of elimination of hepatitis C. Now the first thing that we need to understand with regard to this very issue is, what is hepatitis? So hepatitis basically relates to inflammation of your liver. It can be acute for short-term infection, or it can be a chronic or long-term infection. Now there are different types of hepatitis. The common type is viral hepatitis, which is caused on account of these viruses A, B, C, D and E. Then you have alcoholic hepatitis, which is basically on account of consumption of alcohol. Then there is toxic hepatitis, which is on account of consumption of poisonous chemicals, medicines and poisons. Then there is autoimmune hepatitis. It is a chronic one. So when it comes to autoimmune hepatitis, what happens? Our body immune system start attacking our liver. Although the real cause of autoimmune hepatitis is not clear, but the experts have pointed out that genetics play a role here. So these are the different types of hepatitis that we witness. Now another aspect that we need to understand is how it spreads. Now when it comes to hepatitis A and E, this spread on account of contact with contaminated food or water which is contaminated with an infected person's stool. And when it comes to hepatitis E, it can also spread on account of eating undercooked food. When it comes to hepatitis B, C and D, you can get these hepatitis on account of contact with contaminated blood. So this blood belongs to a person who is already having hepatitis. When it comes to hepatitis B, it can spread from mother to baby, and it can also spread on account of sexual contact with a person who is already infected with hepatitis. What are the symptoms? So you witness loss of appetite, fatigue, joint pain, yellowing of your skin and eyes. Now when it comes to hepatitis, you need to make note of this thing, that it is only with regard to hepatitis C that we do not have any vaccine available to treat this. For the rest, you have vaccines. Now let's look into hepatitis C. So it is caused by hepatitis C virus. And how it spreads? So it spreads on account of unsafe injection practices. There is inadequate sterilization of medical equipments, and on account of transfusion of unscreened blood and blood products. When it comes to the cases, according to WHO, around 71 million people, out of which 6 and 11 million of them are in India, have chronic infection with hepatitis C virus, and which is a major cause of liver cancer as well. When it comes to treatment, as I told you, there is no vaccine available for hepatitis C. It is treated through antiviral medication. Now, with regard to Egypt, as the Egypt has attained this gold tier status, what is this gold tier status all about? So, according to WHO, a country would be getting this gold tier status with regard to hepatitis C if it ensures 100% blood and injection safety, if it maintains a minimum of 150 needles per year for people who inject drugs, if it diagnoses over 80% of the people who are living with hepatitis virus, and it treats over 70% people who are diagnosed with hepatitis C virus. And it establishes a senatorial surveillance program for hepatitis sequelae. Now when it comes to Egypt, what all intervention it did so that it got this gold tier status. So when it comes to Egypt, it made requisite changes in its elimination strategy. So what it did, it took help, or it used the generalistic doctor, community health workers, and it also made use of telemedicine for areas which were hard to reach. It also carried out population-based survey in order to identify that how many people are infected with hepatitis and where these people are. And the major thing which Egypt did, which is enabling it to eliminate hepatitis C, is it has reduced the cost of medical treatment per patient to around $50 with the help of local manufacturing. That is all that we have to make note of with regard to today's analysis. Thank you for listening to this very discussion, and all the very best for your preparation.